So this session is on protecting your dreams. So that's what we're going to talk about, because your dreams deserve protection. So who am I? My name is Sivonnia DeBarros, and like many people, many entrepreneurs, at one point in time, I was just a little girl that had a dream. Okay, so I followed my dream, and my largest dream was becoming a lawyer. So now I am a first-generation lawyer and law business owner. I'm a wife, a mother, an entrepreneur, and a 3-time published author. So let's get real for a moment. I want to know, are you currently in business, or do you want to create a business? So I think we saw several different people who were at different stages during the actual panel. So let's play a game, because being in business is very serious. So what would you do if you created a business and you say you had a partner, and later you find out that your partner is using your business name in a different venture? Okay, what would you do if you wanted to bring someone on as an investor and they decided to take your business and run it like it was their own? Like, these are issues that are constantly happening, and that's not the only thing that could happen. But that's why it's important to understand, if you want to be in business, whether you're an entrepreneur just building a brand that you want to maybe put a brick and mortar business to, either way, it's your brand, your name, your business that you want to make sure is protected by all corners. All right. So how many of you would like to protect your dreams? I'm pretty sure it's all of you guys. So we're going to talk about that today. So what do you not know? There's a lot of things that business owners do not know. This is one reason why I wanted to represent business owners, to keep them out of court for issues that could have been dealt with on the front end versus the back end. Let's start with business formation and what that is, because a lot of people only understand business formation from the understanding of creating an LLC. All right. So there's a misconception about business formation. Most people believe that you only just need your EIN, you choose an LLC or what type of corporation you want to file. You go to the Secretary of State, you file that, tell people you're in business, and you start getting your customers. It's more than that. That's just half of the battle. Okay. So it's important to understand that there are different types of business entities out there, and all of them have different tax consequences attached to them. All of them do different things for you. So it depends on what type of business you are trying to do, what kind of revenue you think you're going to receive, that will help you to determine what type of entity you may need to file. And this is one of your first steps into protecting your business or your brand, because if you are actually bringing in funds, right, you want to be able to deduct those expenses so that you can keep most of your money at the end of the day, right? So sole proprietor, a lot of people are operating brands or businesses under sole proprietorship. That's horrible, because you cannot deduct anything. So whatever you lose, you lose. You don't have any tax benefits as a sole proprietor. All right. What people also need to understand is, just because you say I formed a corporation of sorts, whether it's an S Corp or a C Corp, even when you form an actual company, you're already going to get that limited liability shield. And it's not exactly an LLC. It's just the fact that you've actually created and registered a business. You're saying, hey, I want to separate my personal income and liabilities from my business income and liabilities. So in that respect, you have created a limited liability shield, but there are things that you still have to do to make sure that you maintain that shield. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So when to form your business? You want to form your business when you start generating revenue, because you're going to have to pay taxes. There's no way we can get around it. I wish you could, but that's just what you're going to have to do. All right. So here are the entities that you can file. Now, I want you to keep two distinctions in mind, because when you want to file an LLC, you are forming a company. When you want to file for a corporation, you are registering a corporation. Okay, so those are two distinct things. LLCs are more popular, and some states actually will allow you to do an LLC series. I'm here in Illinois, so they allow you to do that here. And basically what an LLC series does is help you to create almost like an umbrella company, and then you create all these other smaller companies under it. LLCs are perfect, especially for real estate companies, because it allows you to use it as a pass-through structure with your profit and loss, okay? I wish I would have known about entities for my business as a baby lawyer, because I probably would have done something a little bit differently. You need to understand that when you form as an LLC, you are, especially as a sole member LLC, you are being taxed for salary, and you're being taxed for your business income, okay? For S Corp is really, really good if you know you're gonna be making a lot of money, okay? S Corp is good because you can pay yourself a salary, a reasonable salary in the market for which you are operating in, and then you can provide distributions to yourself, which are taxed at a much lower rate. And I think that's 15% if I'm not mistaken, but I'm not a tax attorney, and I will not advise people past this point on taxes. You need to talk with your CPA on that. Being a sole proprietor, we already talked about that, the worst thing possible, because there are no deductions for tax purposes. So you have to pay taxes on all of that money or income that you're receiving under your quote unquote brand or business. So you want to make sure that you can actually register a business so that you can have deductions for tax purposes. Okay, general corporation, C Corp. So you know, a lot of people, there are some people who do C Corps, and this is the proper entity for super large companies, because you get way more deductions. Okay, they are double taxation as well, because they have shareholders, and they're also going to be taxed to the corporation, so whatever the corporation makes. So when you form a general corporation, you have to make sure that you've identified who your shareholders are going to be, and you've also provided them with the certificates of shares. All right. LLPs, general partnerships, are for people who are doing business together, when you have multiple owners of the business. Okay, so if you are in business by yourself, this may not be the entity for you. All right, but an LLP really just allows or offers the ability for some of the partners to have limited liability as well as limited input on management decisions. So say you have a business where one person may be only provided 20%, you know, to have ownership rights. Well, you can limit how much their ownership or liability would be under an LLP. The partnership, general partnership, is going to be owned by multiple people, but you equally share in all the profits, loss, and ownership. Non-for-profit or not-for-profit, you can register as a non-profit in your state if it allows it, but you have to make sure that you file for your tax-exempt status federally, okay, the 501c3 status. And if your state actually charges state taxes, you're going to want to make sure that you file separately if required to, so that you can have tax-exempt status for your state taxes. Okay, and for PC are professional corporations, so like doctors, lawyers, anesthesiologists, those kind of people are permitted to register a business as a PC. Now, here are some other considerations, and I'm going to get to your questions at the end, guys. Other considerations to keep in mind is you may want to file multiple different entities if you have separate issues going on. So let's say, well, I own a law firm, right? But let's just say I sell, I don't know, let's say some cleaning supplies. It wouldn't make sense for me to sell cleaning supplies under my law firm. First off, they are doing two different things. And if someone claimed that my cleaning supplies injured them, well, I don't want that liability to flow into my law firm that literally is doing something completely different, right? And so when you think about your brands and your businesses and what you are doing, you want to think about, are these two things operating the same? Are we selling the same service, providing the same service, or is it completely different? Because if it's completely different, you may need them separately so that you can make sure that you limit your liability so you literally can stop the bleeding when things happen. So for an example, you may want to create a business that has assets, so an asset holding company, but you may want to build another business where it's just operations. Maybe you have a business that can lease those assets from the other company. And so it will be easier for you, like I said, to limit your liability and make sure that if something does happen at the end of the day, you are keeping those issues centered in that one company where someone can only reach into that in order to get their damages filled. Okay, so choosing a business name is very important because a lot of people fall in love with this business name and they go and they register with the state. They never speak with the lawyer. They never do any research to see if anyone else is using that name. They never search the trademark and patent office to see if someone has registered that name as a trademark. It's horrible because I have had so many people call me and say, oh my gosh, I've gotten a cease and desist letter for a name. And when I asked, well, did you look up the name to see if anyone was using it? Is it on a product, right? They are not doing that. And this is another area where you can really end up creating a lot of liability for no reason. So make sure you do research on your name. Do research on variations of the name. Do research on names that sound similar but are spelled differently, because you don't want to get into a trademark infringement case later on. Okay, so when you decide on your business name, do your research, make sure that name is good to go. And if it is, make sure that you go ahead and trademark that name so that you can have full protection over that name and so that you can police it to make sure other people are not infringing upon your rights. Okay, your initial agreements and corporate record book are very important. A lot of people don't do this. And as you know, we are in a very peculiar time right now with COVID-19. And there were a lot of individuals who could not get a PPP loan. So that's the Paycheck Protection loan. They couldn't get it. They don't have any documents. They've never kept anything in their records that will support them in receiving this loan. So having your initial agreements and corporate record book are very important. So what is that and what do you think belongs in here? So if you want to protect your dreams, this is just one of the ways that you can do it. So when you first create your business, you want to make sure that you have your incorporation docs, your formation documents. So we said incorporation are for corporations, formations are for LLCs. You want to have your bank account statements, your signature statements for the bank accounts. You want to have your tax elections. So for instance, if you filed an LLC as your business entity, but you elected to be taxed as an S Corp so that you can pay yourself a reasonable salary and receive income from distributions taxed at a lower rate, you want to have that in your file. You want to have your operating agreements or bylaws. So operating agreements go with LLCs, bylaws go with corporations. Now, those will spell out who are owners of the companies, who are your shareholders or officers of your business. So you want to make sure that you have that information there. Also, agreements. You want to make sure that you have agreements in your corporate record book. Do you have vendors? Do you have anyone that you have a contractual relationship with? You want to make sure that information is in there because you may need to update your agreements later on. Now, let me just get down to agreements really quick because a few of my pet peeves as a lawyer is seeing business owners make deals without agreements in place. Like people are texting folks or, just doing a verbal agreement and then it comes down to he said, she said. I hate seeing people provide large sums of money without protecting themselves with an agreement. Okay, so why would you pay someone $10,000 to receive something or to do something and you never had that in writing? They can always change the facts on you. I hate seeing people enter agreements without an attorney to review and draft so that it will protect them. So A lot of people don't trust lawyers, and I'm sorry, guys, if you've had a bad experience with lawyers. I'm trying to change that narrative, because at the very least, if you, for one, cannot afford to have legal counsel, or you just want to have an attorney for simple things, always make sure that you invest into attorney review, okay? It's not as expensive as having an attorney on the record for you on a monthly, quarterly, or annual basis, but it is the first step in making sure that you protect what it is that you believe you're supposed to receive through that agreement. All right, so some agreements that you definitely need: investor agreements. If you have anyone providing you money, I don't care if it's family or friends, it's angel investment agreements. You need to make sure that it is clear what it is that they're providing and what they receive in return. You need to have your operating tight, okay? Because when something happens, people are going to look back to your operating agreement or your bylaws to see how your company is supposed to be ran. And also, the IRS has the opportunity to request your operating agreement and bylaws for purposes of taxation. So that should be spelled out in your operating agreement in terms of the percentage of the partners who will take how much loss and who will take however much on the profits, okay, or if that's being split equally. You want to have buyout agreements or in spousal waiver agreements. And I know I'm talking fast. Like I said, if you have a question, make sure you drop it down so that I can see that. So if you have a buyout agreement, well, a lot of people don't. So let me back up for a second. You need a buyout agreement. When you go into business with someone, you may outgrow them, or there may just be a situation where you no longer trying to figure out what's the word. You just can't get along with them anymore, right? Well, you always want to have a way to get out of something when that relationship is ending or over, in trouble. Spousal agreements are great because if you were to go through a divorce, you don't want your business to be pulled into family court, or vice versa, the other way around. Whereas you can't even do anything with your business because a family court judge is trying to figure out what that spouse, is owed in terms of splitting profits from that business. You want to make sure that you have assignment of rights or inventions in there, and I'm going to get to that. You want to make sure you have your independent contractors agreements or employment contracts in there. You want to have your NDAs, your non-disclosure agreements. Really quick for assignment of rights and inventions, for anyone who is assisting you with your intellectual property matters, this document will need to be signed by them, okay? Operating investor agreements, we went over this. Make sure you have that in your corporate record book. And like I said, buyout and spousal waiver, some relationships break up. So you want to make sure that you're protecting yourself and to give yourself a way out if that relationship doesn't work out. For your intellectual property agreements, the assignment of inventions that I spoke about, you want to make sure that you're keeping a close tab on people that you're bringing in to provide certain products or services that speak exactly to your intellectual property, okay? Now, it's important that you notate important dates. And a lot of people get in trouble with this because you can't do everything, okay? So you want to make sure that you notate what your annual tax payments are going to be, what your quarterly tax payments are, and when you need to file them. If you have some part of like a boutique, you may have to pay sales tax payments. If you have employees, you may have to pay unemployment insurance. You may have to pay payroll, so you want to keep track of all this stuff. You want to keep track of your annual meeting minutes, quarterly meetings, because this may come into play if you're being audited to really see if you are operating yourself as a legit business. Now, maintain the corporate shield, because we've talked about this. How do you maintain the corporate shield? All right, so like I said, when you register a business or incorporate a corporation, it already limits your liability, right? But there's something that's called piercing the corporate veil. If you end up having a case in court and someone says that you've injured them through your business, a court will look to see if you've done certain things to maintain that corporate shield. And what I would like to say is basically a Chinese wall between your business and your personal assets. All right, so you want to make sure that you have maintained your annual taxes, your sales tax elections, if that applies to you. Keep track of all of your corporate records. So anything that happens in your business, you want to document it, track it. If you've paid money into your business or loaned money in your business, if someone has made you brought someone on as an officer, track it. It should be a part of your corporate records. You want to also make sure that you have proper accounting procedures, and you want to definitely make sure that you do not commingle any of your assets, meaning your personal assets with your business assets, or spending from your business banking account for personal reasons, because that in a way will basically obliterate the corporate shield, the protection, if someone was able to actually gain the piercing effect to hold you personally liable for damages if they weren't able to be completely made whole just by the business assets that you have. All right, so other considerations that we're not going to get to today are time considerations on where to file and tax elections, websites. There is a case that came out against Beyonce for ADA compliance. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I'll go into that really quick. And then business insurance. So Keyman, a lot of people don't know what Keyman is. That's basically buyout insurance. But also Keyman Insurance is so amazing because it's, say for instance, your business partner became critically ill, well, that insurance will actually kick in to help you in that phase. Disability is something that entrepreneurs definitely need to take seriously and think about, because if you're a one-man show and something happened to you, all of your income is based on you operating things, and you don't have disability insurance, you're basically not getting paid. So you want to have that. For me, I'm a licensed lawyer, so I have professional liability insurance. If you carry a professional license, you may want professional liability insurance. You need operating cost insurance and general insurance. So general insurance is almost kind of like gap insurance, but especially if you have a brick and mortar location where people are coming to, you want to have that general insurance. You want to have operating cost insurance. And also you want to have insurance for employee relations issues. So if an employee decided that they wanted to sue you for one reason or another, it's almost kind of like labor and employment insurance. You want to be able to have a lawyer that possibly will be supplied by your insurance carrier to make sure that you don't have to go and drop 20 grand in a retainer just to get that matter resolved. And then trademarks, we can go into that all day, but I kind of touched on it. But I want to go back to the website issue with ADA compliance, because there was a case that came out with Beyonce where I think the woman was blind. So she was using the computer to try and buy tickets for a Beyonce concert. And because the website was not ADA compliant, she couldn't hear what she was doing or what she should have clicked on to buy the ticket sold. The ticket sold out. And I don't know if that case is still going on. It probably is. But a lot of people let that kind of slip by. You know, some things it's just as simple as having words on your pictures, just so people know what the description of that picture is so imperative. And that's a new service that I've been getting into to help my clients to make sure that on the back end, when people look at their website, is it ADA compliant, so that you can avoid being hauled into court to fight something that you never even knew existed. All right, so dream big, but protect the dream. Otherwise, I mean, what will happen? We all have dreams, but what good is a dream if you leave it unprotected, right? So if you're ready to move yourself to the next level, it's time to get active now and move the pieces together that will help protect you. I want you to think about what will happen if you don't get counsel now. What will happen if you keep doing business without a business structure? What will happen if you've been using a name that you don't have the legal right to use, right? What will happen if your partner passes away and their family are now basically part owners of the company? Will you have the money to buy them out? These are some very critical questions that you want to think about. It's time to change the narrative, time to get real, time to get serious. Start building a business the right way. Build a dream that you see for your family. Build a legacy, y'all. Come on now. Protect the investments you've made in this dream. Okay, so here's something that I offer as a dream protection session. And I know I also have legal plans available. So if there's a la carte things that you want to do or one-off services that you need, I help entrepreneurs. I help establish business owners. I help you with your intellectual property. And I also have general counsel plans available. So if you already have an established business, but you're like, hey, I need someone that, you know, I can call when some things need to happen, or, you know, to get our corporate records books in place, call us. We have those plans available for you. Okay. So do I have any thoughts or questions? Hi, guys. Any thoughts or questions? Hey, Keenan.
I think there were a couple questions on some of the clauses and what's necessary for LLCs versus corporations. So I think it was around the Keyman or buyout clauses, which I love. But
okay.
Yeah, if you just want to touch on and make sure that folks have it, because it was something overlooked by me at my first startup.
Okay, so for an LLC, your question is the difference between an LLC or a corporation?
It was particularly around the Keyman Insurance or buyout clauses.
Okay. So Keyman Insurance, you guys, is so important, but is not really known for some reason. Smaller entrepreneurs, business owners do not know that this exists. So with Keyman Insurance, it basically is an insurance that's in place to help you buy out your partner, or you can be bought out. You can kick that insurance in gear when it's time to separate. Okay. Keyman Insurance is also good if, for instance, something happens with one of the partners. So one of my questions at the end was, what will happen if your partner passed away or was, you know, critically ill and passed away from that, right? Well, now their interest in that business through estate law is going to pass automatically to their heirs, their natural heirs at law. So children, or it could be their sisters and brothers if they didn't have any kids. And so technically you would be in business with those heirs if you didn't have that insurance. And the question is, like, what would you want to do? How would you buy them out? Because your business is going to be valued at something, but if you've never had the proper insurance to basically give you that security blanket, you're going to be really kind of reaching, you know, digging in your pocket, trying to figure out, how can I buy this person or these people out so that I can keep, you know, working in my business without aggravation, stress, because now you could be working with one other person, or you could be working with 10, and you don't know how that's going to be when you have 10 different opinions on one issue. So that's something that's overlooked a lot, and it should definitely be considered, especially if you have a high revenue generating business. You want to definitely look into that. And you want to look into operation insurance. So for instance, with COVID-19, a lot of businesses went flat because they didn't have insurance. They didn't have the proper insurance. And so when you lose revenue, or you lose income to help you operate your business, if you have operational insurance, that could kick in and help you in a time like this. So I hope I answered the question. Buyout clauses are needed for partnership structures. So buyout clauses should be something that you should implement in any kind of business. I don't care if it's an LLC or some form of a corporation or a nonprofit, because you don't know how that relationship may work out in the end. You can have a clause, you can have an actual buyout agreement. I normally like to draft and write a separate buyout agreement and refer it back to the operating agreement or the bylaws and incorporate it, because you want to be careful too when you write these certain things, that you're not overlooking or basically saying that some of the clauses in your operational operating agreements or bylaws are ineffective if X over here in this document is happening. So you want to make sure that your language is clear and speaks to each other, but definitely write your buyout in a way where you know exactly what's happening if you want to get out of this relationship. A lot of things people don't talk about in the buyouts is how are we going to even value our companies? What will it be worth, and what formula will we use to determine what our business revenue would be at the end of the year? What are the things that we're going to use to calculate how the business is valued? You know, so sometimes you may have very valuable contact lists. People don't necessarily think about monetizing a contact list, but why not? You know, because if that's a contact, if you have a contact where you may have made business off of a few times, that can be a very valuable asset in your business. So you want to think about how are we going to value our business on an annual basis? And then for buyout, how are we going to value the business in the event one of us wants to leave this relationship? So do I have any more questions? I know I'm talking super fast, y'all, because I don't get that much time, and I think I may have like 5 or 4 minutes. So yeah, email lists are huge. Goodwill valuation needs to be yes. Goodwill is definitely another thing, and a lot of people don't understand that either. Goodwill is basically how you have created your name in your industry with your customers. People are coming back time and time again and do business with you because you've created this goodwill with them. And so you definitely want to make sure that you value that too, because say for instance, litigation occurred and you want to show a valuation for your goodwill being damaged, you want to be able to reach back and use that information as evidence to what you should be paid for on the basis of, you know, some form of business damages so that you can get paid what you deserve. What is included with your consultation? So I talked to you guys about the business protection plan. That consultation is a 2-hour consultation, and that's normally why I charge $12.50 for it. That consultation is completely dependent on the person in that session. So what I do is I send out, it's like when I tell y'all it is deep, it's a 15-page audit, okay? That audit asks you everything about your business, all types of foundations that should be in place, but it asks you to check off what you do have. It asks you questions about where you see yourself in the next 5 years, or how do you plan to exit your business. Now, here's something that people don't think about, or when I see them write in this space about exiting their business, they say, oh, I want to stay with my business always. Well, first I think, well, you don't want to retire? You know, so we sometimes we get in that space where we just work, and we want to just make a living, but we never truly think about, do we want this business to take care of us? Or do we want to keep babying this business to operate, you know, 20, 30 plus years, but it's never gonna take care of us? So that's a critical question, because when I talk to business owners and entrepreneurs, I really want to know where you're headed, so I can help you to either develop a business plan that's gonna set you on the right course, or if you already have a business, trying to see where what you've done so far to create proper business foundations that are gonna not only create protection for you, but also gonna actually generate some revenue. So, and we all know we want to keep our money. So part of what I do too in that is to determine what people who are part of my team, what other professionals that I may need to connect you with to make sure that all those gaps that I see in that audit that are left open, that we help you to close those gaps so that you can operate at your best. And of course, make money, because we all want some cheese.